Welcome to the Love is Our Nature podcast, where we discuss all things ranging from love, relationships, authenticity, fulfillment, to lessons from plant medicine journeys, inner healing, and living your truth. I'm not your teacher, I'm only your fellow student. Occasionally, you also get to hear some of my own healing process and journey back to love. The point of the program? That you take away at least one actionable piece of knowledge that supports you in expanding whatever aspect of your life your heart most desires. My name is Cesar Rodriguez. I will be your host, and I am honored to have you here. Happy listening. Welcome to the Love is Our Nature podcast. I am so excited to be here with the one and only Steffen Key. I can't wait for you to meet him. Let me tell you who Steffen Key is. Steffen Key is a humble messenger of the Pleiadian mystical teachings. He's passionate to explore and harness the power of sound and frequency to offer tools and technologies to humanity that support them to get back into their natural state of harmonic resonance. Steffen is also active as a DJ, a producer, magical music production teacher at his academy, Sonic Sorcerer, a medicine music label curator, and he's one part of the Aluna Ritual Music, a sonic ceremony music project co-created with his beautiful partner, Maiwa, who I have the fortune of also knowing. Welcome, Steffen, to the Love is Our Nature podcast. How are you?
Thank you, Cesar. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very grateful and very excited.
Amazing.
To have the opportunity.
Amazing. Yes, I'm very excited too. So, I'm really over the moon that you're here because I've become so fond of you. You become like a brother. I mean, basically a brother to me here in Costa Rica. One of the beautiful things about a lot of the community here is that we sort of uprooted ourselves and we came to a kind of distant, unknown land, and we've been so fortunate to connect with other individuals that have done the same, and we've sort of become family, right? And you're definitely one of those people for me, and you so happen to live down here. I can see your house from my house. Where Steffen and I are next door neighbors here in Templo Lila. So how magical that we got to cross paths and here we are, you know.
Thank you for sharing that. I deeply appreciate that, and I can say from my side and from my heart also that I deeply appreciate you as a brother, and I really admire your dedication and your efforts to create community here and to bring people together, and with such a pure heart, and such a beautiful intention. And you've been so valuable already with everything that you've shared. And to me, it feels like there's a conspiracy going on from the Great Spirit. It becomes more and more clear as we discover our gifts and as we share more and as we co-create more, that there's huge potential for, co-creating beautiful, powerful, transformative events and things and gatherings, as we already do with the Templo Lila events.
Yes. What would you say this conspiracy is that the universe is conspiring on?
Yeah, that's a great question, Cesar.
We're going to jump right in.
Yeah, let's jump right into it. So basically, there's a fork in the road right now, right? And from a meta perspective, humanity is going through an evolution, a shift in consciousness. So we're going, or let's say we have the opportunity, if we so choose, to evolve into a more expanded, more aware, more powerful, more loving species. And part of it entails to remember our essence. And I believe there is certain souls incarnated on the planet that have agreed to come here because they could foresee that a shift would happen in a certain time frame, which is now. And they were coming in with this idea to bring the light back on the planet that has been in the hands of darkness for hundreds of thousands of years. And I get goosebumps as I'm talking about that, which is always the indicator for me that something is true when it deeply resonates. So basically, there's those souls, you can call them light workers, rainbow warriors, star seeds, however you want to name them, that come together. Now, they remember, maybe they are not really fully aware of it, but at some point on a soul level, there's this connection that is already there, and there's this commitment, and there's this idea of creating the shift as kind of way showers or pioneers or people who forge the path and anchor a certain vibration, anchor frequency, anchor consciousness, and show the way and create the steps, create a bridge for this transition to happen. So because at this moment, like, people are waking up, like, it's inevitable in a sense, but at the same time, with the frequencies raising, right, this idea that from the Mayan cosmology, I'm very like resonating with Mayan cosmology, and there's the idea that the evolution of consciousness is orchestrated, right? So this is why the Mayans and the Mayan calendar and all those prophecies could more or less foresee that, because they are aware of the cycles that are happening within consciousness, and it's a spiraling movement, and they were also more tapped into their powers of consciousness, psychic abilities, where they can see different timelines, different probable futures, and they could foresee like the potential. And maybe even further, maybe this whole thing was set up as an experiment. Like, no, we could go super deep. Like, why is this all happening, right? Question is, I believe, consciousness itself, like all that is, the prime creator, wants to experience itself and creates embodiments and emanations of itself imbued with the same abilities as itself, to create worlds and to experience itself and bring back the experience to the prime creator so that it can experience and know itself, right? But then at some point it asks itself, what happens if I cut myself from myself? And this is maybe the experiment that we're going through right now. So based on Mayan cosmology, the idea is that we are the living answer, like our life is the living answer of a question that source or creator or consciousness is asking itself. And then we hop in and we experience it. And one of the questions might be, who can I become? Who am I when I cut myself from myself? And I pretend to be disconnected. I pretend to be separate. I pretend to be not all connected and not one. What happens? And I think the answer to that we are experiencing. And I think at the same time, it's a very powerful experience to have, and it gives a lot more growth and more experiences to be had than if we wouldn't have this polarity that we can have here when we believe that we are separate and disconnected. And and at the same time, I also believe that the planet is sort of hijacked, or like beings came in and because it's a free will universe, they took over governance and created their things. But we don't want to go into conspiracies too much, because we want to talk about the potential that we have to create our realities. But yeah, basically that's what I believe. Right now we are at this point of evolution, of shift of consciousness from a lower vibrational frequency consciousness, which is of course set up and programmed and maintained by certain interest groups, but we can surpass that. And right now, the galactic central sun, which the Mayans call the Hunab Ku, is pulsing higher frequency light codes through the sun onto the planet to help us awaken and remember and activate our DNA, because the DNA is responding to the codes. Like there's like tiny filaments in our cells that like fiber optic cables, like data streams, and they contain all the knowledge of all the lifetimes that our soul has been through, which is a myriad of experiences. And it's coming online, so to say, right now. The opportunity is there if we are open to that, to make the shift happen, because we need new ways or old ways, the ancient ways, which are the mystic ways, like to re-enchant the world and to tap into our potentials to make the shift and make it beautiful and make it joyful and magical.
Wow. Well, thank you for, answering all the tough questions about our existence as we see this beautiful group of birds fly over us. Now you see a little bit of why I wanted to bring Steffen on the show. He's got so much insight to offer and such a beautiful perspective as to why we might be going through what we're going through, right? And the date of this recording of this podcast is November 9th, 2021. And you're saying that a lot of what's going on in the world is actually reflected in what the Mayan calendar projected?
Sort of. I mean, I'm not saying that because the thing is, it's always it's a collective co-creation, and we can get into that a little deeper in a moment, like how I believe that happens, that realities are being created. But what the Mayan calendar definitely foresaw was that there will be a time in space where we will be able to shift from a 3D linear perspective into a multidimensional state of being. This is also why the Mayan calendar stopped counting. Like they say, 2012, the Mayan calendar just stopped. It didn't stop, but it started to branch off. And from this time, they couldn't foresee a linear timeline anymore. And it was up to us what we will be creating. And this is also really crucial right now, to be aware of that we are creating our reality. And how we do that, we can get into a little in a moment.
Yeah.
But basically, like they were seeing like, okay, so at some point, basically on the 21st of December on 2012, there was this threshold reached where consciousness is no longer operating linear. So they were not able to see linear timelines anymore. So they stopped the prophecy, but they also knew that this would mark the beginning of the ascension process, which is basically like elevating the frequencies, like being able to hold a higher perspective and being able to hold more light within the body. Like it's a physical and a metaphysical process, so we are going through this transition, and even our like molecular structure, our cellular structure, everything is being changed as those frequencies are coming in. And this is also what is creating a lot of chaos and confusion, because those are disruptive energies. Those are energies of change, and those energies come with an intention of creating more extended and more, or let's say, not so limited experiences, right? Because the 3D reality is on purpose, is very limited.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So there's a lot to chew on in everything that you've shared so far. Thank you for giving all that for us to reflect on. And there's so much I want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I love what you shared about, and I've heard similar things here and there about, we sometimes wonder like, why are we here, right? Why did God make us, right? And you're saying that we can call it God, right? We can call it the Great Spirit, right? We are the Great Spirit experiencing itself.
Yeah.
Right? So the Great Spirit wanted to experience itself. It's really interesting. In my first ayahuasca ceremony, I had a conversation with my body, and at one point it was like, when I asked it, "How are you so loving?" and it was like, "She made me this way." And I was like, "Ooh, who is she?" And then it was like, "Well, you might not be ready to meet her," right? Fast forward a little bit in that journey, like meet her, and it was, in my experience, I was referencing to her as Divine Mother. I don't know if I gave her that name or that name just came to me, but it was Divine Mother. And I could experience some sadness that was coming from her, and I asked her, the first thing I asked her, though, before I get into that sadness that I experienced from her was, well, I basically thanked her for my body, because I was just discovering my body in that moment, like what a faithful servant it is, how much it loves me. And I was like, thank you so much for my body. I was like, what did I do to deserve such an amazing gift of a human body? And she responded, I wanted you to experience love in more directions than just one.
Wow.
Right. And that made sense to me in some way, because if you think of us as a spirit, after we die or after we transition, we become one with the all. And perhaps that's where we came from as well. We're just one, right? We're just a drop in the ocean. We're like the great spirit. We're one with it. But then here we come as a human and experience the separation of other, or the illusion of other. And all of a sudden, where before I could only experience love in one place, which is everywhere, now I get to experience love from many different directions. Is what I was gathering from her answer. She's like, I wanted you to experience love from more directions than one.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh wow, yeah, on Earth we could experience love from 7 billion different directions, if we all loved one another.
Yeah.
And that's why it resonates for me when you say, like, consciousness experiencing itself, or the Great Spirit experiencing itself. And then you add one more piece. You say, well, this great consciousness had a question, like, what happened if I cut myself off from myself? It's taken me a while to wrap my mind around that one. Why would the Great Spirit want to cut itself off from itself?
Because I believe it wants to experience itself in all possible ways. All possible ways, and this is also the thing why Earth is such a powerful experience to have, because from what I've gathered, from perspectives from ET beings and channeled material and so far, they always say, those beings, that Earth is one of the most advanced places to go to because of the degree of polarity and because of the degree of experience of disconnection you can have. And this, from a perspective of soul growth, is so much more valuable. And it also takes a lot of courage and advancement to be able to decide to get so deep into the darkness, because we are all here by choice. People might argue with that, but on a soul level, we chose to be here. And everybody who's on Earth right now can congratulate themselves for being like super fucking courageous and for being on that ride. And that ride is just beginning, but it can be like super awesome. It depends on how we navigate it from here, but definitely in general, for the creator, it's no difference if you love someone or if you kill someone. It's equally valuable experience. Like the soul wants to experience everything. Creator wants to experience itself in all ways in order to be wise and to create even better worlds or more wisdom-based creations, because I believe the universe is created. It has definitely patterns and structures you can see everywhere. There's a logic, there's an intelligence. And I think even like the laws and everything, like everything we experience in this universe is created in order, to have a frame of reference for certain experiences. But it's not the only way. And I believe there's multiple universes with different laws and different structures that are created differently in order to have even more experiences, right? So one thing that humans tend to do is judge things good or bad or something like that. I think from a soul perspective or from the creator's perspective, there is no judgment. There's just infinite hunger for experience. It's feeding off and it gets energized and excited by experience no matter what. And the more exciting, the better. And exciting in the sense that it's intense.
I see. Okay. So let's bring it to a more personal level now. And while at the same time allowing all of you listening to get to know Steffen a little bit more, as well as maybe me as well. We'll see. First of all, where or how did you get all the where did you gain all the insight that you're sharing, up for the last 20 minutes?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it all started more or less on 11/11/2011. That was my crucial awakening moment. Yeah, it sounds super magical, but it makes sense from a perspective of synchronicity and coding. So basically, before that, I was super deep into the matrix. I was working as a social worker. I had no spiritual practices, no idea, didn't believe in God. I was very irrational. My father was an engineer, and yeah, I was just like doing what everybody else was doing. Although deep inside, I was questioning everything. I was like, what the fuck? I don't really get it. I don't get the idea of working. I don't get why people are excited about certain things. But I was just playing along because I was like, yeah, everybody's doing it. So at some point I gave up asking myself. But then I felt emptiness within me. And then I started to try to balance out the emptiness, not with just making music. That was one part. But I also started Qigong for some reason. Like I started with Wing Chun, but our Wing Chun teacher did Qigong at the beginning and at the end of the class. And at some point I was more excited about the Qigong. I realized I don't want to fight. And I have to pay a lot of thanks to my Qigong teacher because he asked the right questions. Like in his classes, he was always saying things like, like if you're still seeking to fight, the only person you're fighting is yourself. A true warrior seeks not to fight, stuff like that. This is how it started. Like he got me thinking. And then the Qigong got me experiencing, right? So we did like Falun Gong, which is a very powerful form of Qigong that is forbidden in China until today. Like in the 1996, it got like really famous, like millions of followers. And then they started persecuting people because they were worried that people would be just super powerful and not be suppressed anymore and not be held as slaves.
What is this called again?
Falun Gong.
Does it have another name in English?
No.
No, okay.
No, I think it's Falun Gong. Falun Dafa is another name, but that's
something like 9 Tibetans or something. Or
no,
that's something else.
No, 5 Tibetans is something different.
Okay.
Yeah. So Falun Gong is a super powerful practice, very simple, but like what happened to me was like mind blowing. So I started doing this practice. At some point, I was feeling energy for the first time in my body. Like I felt a magnetism. Like there was a distance between my hand and my body. I was moving it around the body, but I could feel like some sort of charge, electrical charge in the field. I'm like, holy shit, what is happening? And then I got like really interested and excited. And I started to practice like every morning and every evening, 1 hour, like the full thing. And then at some point I started seeing things, like I was seeing colorful circles on the wall while doing my practice. And first I thought, because I had like some music going on the computer, I thought it's a reflection from the screen. But then I turned off the screen and I saw the circle still. And I'm like, holy shit, what is that? And then I talked to my teacher and he said, yeah, no worries. Like the practice is really powerful. And that one of the things it's doing is opening your pineal gland, which is kind of like what people call the third eye in many ancient traditions. And it is an organ that is receptive to a different field of frequency. So not just what you see with your eyes, but you could say it is perceiving higher dimensions or more ethereal, more subtle, energetic, forms and shapes and stuff like that. And then I started to see energy in the room and stuff like that. And then I was like, holy shit, I never thought this is possible, but seems like, there is something more. And then I started really freaking out when I saw beings, like orbs floating around and stuff like that, and thought forms, like I
While
think
you were practicing?
Yeah, and also after. Like, And the thing is, once you have this expectation, like believing is experiencing. So at this point I was super open, and I started to read books, and I started to watch videos, and I started to open up to, because I thought, okay, so maybe what I've been taught in school is not the truth entirely, and maybe there's more to it. And now I'm opening myself up to experience whatever wants to experience, because I really quickly got the notion that believing is seeing, right? And not the other way around. Like the third dimensional paradigm is, only what I can see, what I can measure is real. So I need to see it, in order to validate it. But it actually works the other way around. You cannot perceive something that you're not the vibrational frequency of, which means if you don't believe in something, let's say fairies, for instance, you cannot see them. But if you believe in fairies, they will reveal themselves to you, because you are opening the gates. You're like opening the filters, It's just one example, or interdimensional beings or whatever. At this point, I was like, okay, I'm open to whatever wants to present itself to me. And then later I found out that those beings were my guides, which are like Pleiadian light beings that float around me all the time. And it's really funny because it is an overlay of 2 dimensions, right? I have the 3rd dimension, and then they overlay those beings floating around, and they always adapt the size, So it's just, if I look at my hand, like they're super small, tiny, but if I look in the clouds, then they get bigger, and they float around. And that changed everything for me. And then I decided, okay, I want to quit my job. I want to investigate that. I just want to meditate. I just want to read books, and I cannot talk with people anymore that like, I just felt like I want to explore that, right? So I quit my job, I quit my relationship, I quit the flat I was living in, and I was moving into a cabin in the woods.
1 second. So before you get further ahead in that story, because I want to hear it, how did you know they were Pleiadian beings?
So that revealed itself later in a dream that I had. And I was like around 2012. It was really funny because I had this big expectations, like after all the material I was like binge reading. I had a certain expectation around the 21st of 2012, like the December. I thought like something really big is going to happen, and I told all, my friends about it and stuff, and then it didn't happen what I expected, and everybody was like mocking me and saying like, see, like nothing happened, and now here you are with your esoteric ideas, and and I was like super sad and disappointed, and I was like asking myself, what happened? And then I had a lucid dream, and then those beings showed up, and then they presented themselves as my guides. There's some from the 5th dimension and some from the 9th dimension, which are higher planes, like vibratory speaking. And they were basically like telling me like, it's all good, like it is a process, and you're on the right path, and trust yourself. And they were showing me like some really nice magic tricks like telepathy and telekinesis and stuff like that. And just saying that, have trust and have faith, and it's of course not overnight. It's a gradual process, and it's an individual journey, but you're on your path, and we're here to support you. And also, one thing that I also need to say, I talked to my Qigong teacher about the beings, and then he gave me this book, and I wanted to bring it actually, but I forgot it. It's called Bringers of the Dawn.
Bringers of the Dawn.
Yeah, by Barbara Masiniak, and it's a channeled book by the Pleiadians. Man, and the second I got this book, like I was reading it and I started crying, because every word touched my soul so deeply, and I felt, finally things make sense, And it's talking about what we said at the beginning, that there's this time of transition on the planet happening where there's finally potential to shift into the light, and there will be a lot of souls incarnated in the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions to be anchoring those higher frequencies in their bodies and on the earth, and to come with radical ideas and concepts, and to make this shift happen, first on a smaller scale, like community basis, and then it will ripple out into the whole world. Stuff like that, and many more things. And I started reading that, and I was like, wow, that makes sense, And so that's why I also said, like, I'm a messenger of the Pleiadian mystical teachings, because I think on a soul level, I'm very connected to those beings, maybe in a different reality, time frame, universe, whatever. I'm like a Pleiadian being, and right now I'm here as a human, you know, but my soul is also very connected to those beings and to those frequencies.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, the book is super powerful. I still read it once in a while, and it's just.
Did it take something for you to start owning up to that the way you do so now? Like to be able to like.
Yeah, of course, man, a lot. Like I went through a lot of trials and tribulations. I had to let go of my whole social entourage, you know, like all my friends and stuff. Yeah, because I mean,
people are looking at you like you're crazy or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been kind of like, I don't know, like not like a nerd, but like, you know, somewhat of how you say, like in German we say Kauz, which is kind of like, yeah, like a geek or something like that, you know, like. But then I also felt like I couldn't be with those people anymore. I was not resonating with what they were doing and talking about. And I was just so fascinated. The thing is this, like my soul was quenching, you know, for those kind of vibrations. And then I really discovered also, like through a lot of, you know, working with shamans, energy healers and psychedelics and medicines, plant medicines, you know, like once you awaken, you realize it's a journey, and the journey is kind of guided, and there's certain checkpoints, you know, and step by step, because you always get so much how you can take. Like once you awaken, that's one thing, and then step by step you get fed more and more information, and as you take in more information and as you integrate it, more information comes, you know. And there's, for instance, certain books that I saw, but I wasn't ready to read them until like 3 years later, until I had like deepened my understanding and practiced it and integrated it to a degree that I now could, you know, perceive it in the right way. And yeah, basically my dedication towards, you know, this path and exploring what is consciousness and why am I here and what's my essence, that was so much more important to me than anything else. And it was so interesting to see, once I quit my job and I got out of this 9-to-5 rhythm, that life continued, and that a different order or structure came into my life that was more based on synchronicities. You know, I would just show up in a restaurant, people started talking to me, they just had like this awakening or whatever, and they, you know, like strangers, they were just coming to me and talking to me because they felt something, stuff like that, like super weird shit. And then at some point I was invited to work with a shaman and a hypnotherapist together, and yeah, just stuff like that. And so I surrounded myself with people who are vibrating in a similar wavelength, and I shifted step by step out of the 3D matrix as far as I could into this way of being guided by my heart and by synchronicities and stuff like that. And then I discovered also Bashar, which is a really powerful, inspiring.
He's channeled by Daryl Anka.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually came across some of his material thanks to a very good friend of mine, actually, Zaina Degaya, who was in episode 1. She's like, check out this video, you know, and there's this guy saying all this stuff about like why we're going through COVID and what's really going on and how we're going through an eye of the needle, you know, and it was fascinating, and in some way it kind of resonated with me, and it made sense. But at the same time, I had my, you know, my cynical, skeptical, like reptilian brain, right? That's saying like, this guy's channeling. Like, what is he channeling? At first, I thought he was channeling like a spirit or an angel, but eventually I researched some more. I was like, oh no, wait, he's channeling an extraterrestrial. Like, what is this? And it was my first experience of actually listening to someone who says they're channeling an extraterrestrial and actually taking it as what they're saying it is, you know, like starting to consider that perhaps that's actually what's going on. And it started to really expand the horizon for me of what this reality might be. And for those of you listening, I mean, maybe you're a lot like me, where like you hear somebody saying they're channeling aliens and you're just like, that's crock of shit. You know, like that guy's just trying to make money off of people's foolishness and naivety, you know, and I had a lot of that, but the more I've dove internally into my own consciousness, and studied ancient teachings, you know, like the Paramahansa Yogananda, the autobiography of a yogi, you start to see how like there's a lot that's been going on for thousands of years that humans have been doing that we just have no clue about, because in our Western society, it's all been sort of, I don't know, before it was persecuted and people were killed, right, and hung and stuff, and now to the point of like, oh, like magic, you only see that at the carnival, you know, with some cheap tricks, and that's it. But yeah, so shout out to Bashar.
Yeah,
I ended up buying a documentary and it was amazing. So you said that then you came across Bashar.
So that's the thing. You know what I love about Bashar, like, is he is also saying, like Daryl is saying through Bashar, you don't even have to believe that it's an ET entity. The invitation is to try out what he's suggesting and see if it works. And
he does say that.
Man, does it work amazingly. You know, like, I'm so grateful also, you know, because as a Western white born male, I'm super conditioned, you know, and all this limiting beliefs. And Bashar was just helping me. I was listening to these channeling sessions over and over again to deconstruct my false perception, or let's say my limited perception. There is no right and false. There's just, you know, perceptions. But my very limited perception was deconstructed by listening to it over and over again. It was like a reprogramming, right? And imagine I've been programmed for, like, I was 27 when I got into this material. So I was programmed for 27 years with a very limiting, not loving agenda. And then listening to Bashar over and over again and actually trying out what he's suggesting. And my favorite teaching that he has is, among many other things, which are awesome, like I really recommend everybody to check out Bashar if you're into metaphysics and want to find out more about the physics behind reality and consciousness. He has such a great way, and such a humorous way, such a loving way. And I experienced him live in an event also when they were like promoting the documentary you're talking about, which is awesome, which you also should see. And so, yeah, basically his main teaching, what struck me the most is act on your highest excitement, act on your passion, you know? And since I started doing that, my life shifted completely, like 180 degree. Like, I went from burnout and depression into a blissed out music producer living in Costa Rica now, like over the course of 5 years, you know? So, yeah, there's a lot of really powerful truth in that. And again, like, how do I tell it's the truth? It resonated with me. I get goosebumps, and then I try it out, right? And then I see if it works or not. And that's the thing. Like, if it works for you, it doesn't even matter if it's coming from an ET or not. You know, the thing is that it's just metaphysics, and it seems to work like super well. And it's so in depth and so in detail. It's like a construction kit. And that's what I love about it. And we can get deeper into that if you want, you know, like how it actually works with the excitement. And
yeah, well, let's see, because there's quite a few things that I wanted to talk to you about. Would you say you're fulfilled?
Yeah. Yeah, more than fulfilled.
Okay.
I'm like super blissed out and grateful. And that doesn't mean I don't have my dark days and dark nights of the soul and stuff like that. But overall, what I've never expected when I was, let's say, like 27, then my life would be like this. Now I'm 37, you know, like 10 years later. I would have never thought that it's going to develop in such a magical, abundant journey. Like, every day is amazing. And then you think it cannot get more amazing until the next day arrives, right? It's like a constant explosion of bliss and synchronicity and joy. And because since 4 years, I'm only doing what I love, nothing else, you know? Like, I've tried the other thing. I've tried to fit in, and I've tried to be someone that I'm not, and I tried to please people, and it almost killed me. And now, since 4 or 5 years, I'm only doing what I love, like on purpose, and it doesn't have to be the same. Sometimes it's something else, you know, but it's mainly connected to working with the sound and music and stuff like that. Man, and it's been brought me to the most beautiful places in the world. It has brought my dream partner to me. It has brought amazing people like you in my life, and it keeps, evolving and it keeps expanding. And this is also the physics behind it. The frequency, the resonance creates more of it.
Yeah, amazing. And yeah, I've been so lucky to also develop a close relationship with your beautiful partner, Maiwa, and gosh, do you have like one of the most tender, loving, gentle beings on earth as your partner. So congratulations. And you will get to know Maiwa here in the Lovers of Nature podcast very soon. So stay tuned. Can't wait to have her. Together, Steffen and Maiwa make the most beautiful music. Please look them up on Spotify or anywhere. On Bandcamp as well, right? Under Aluna Ritual Music. Also, you'll find Steffen on Spotify under Steffen Key. That's Steffen space Ki. I'm a big fan. I've got a lot of those songs on my Chi Dance playlist. And we'll leave, towards the end, we'll leave one of your songs that you recently released, Madre, with another vocalist. What's her name?
Yeah, it's Ella from Germany. She's a good friend, a beautiful sister from Germany. It's her first release ever.
Nice. First release ever. Wow, she did a great job. Stick through to the end to hear that song. It's beautiful. It's called Madre. And what would you say then makes for a fulfilling life?
Yeah, so I think fulfillment is coming from a sense of being of service and having a purpose. And this ties into excitement. So if you ask yourself, what is my purpose? I have no idea. It doesn't have to be a career or something like that. But I think, what we feel, what is exciting us for a reason, because it is what we came here to do. And this is not just a random lifetime. This is the lifetime of all lifetimes. That's the most amazing show, that has ever happened on Earth with this shift of consciousness. And so probably if you're listening to that, then chances are really high that you also came here to co-create and re-enchant the world with your gifts and your talents. And for me, fulfillment came into my life when I, stopped trying to be someone and started to listen. What do I want? What do I need? What is exciting me, and just doing that. And of course, I had to go through this fear of, if I leave my job, will I, because I was also conditioned, for instance, you cannot make money with art or music, was one of the beliefs that came from my parents and from their parents. So you have to go through this process right now. If you feel like, I'm still in my job and I'm not fulfilled, and I know I have a passion for this or that, but will it sustain me? Yes, it will. Maybe in different ways, maybe you will have to be open to change, but on the long run, it will definitely be worth it, because the fulfillment you cannot pay with any paycheck, and this is what your soul really desires. Your soul desires to be of service. Your soul desires to be in alignment and to express your gifts, whatever that might be. And asking yourself what you would do, even if you wouldn't get money for it, is a good starting point, and as I said, coming back to Bashar's idea of acting on your excitement, you don't have to be excited about the same thing. You don't have to make a career about it. You don't even have to think or strategize so much about it. It's more about the feeling that you have when you do something. For me, like making music, man, that's all I need, And I always love to tell the story in my first ayahuasca ceremony when I thought that I'm dying. Yes. I'm working with this music software called Ableton, which I'm so grateful for that it got invented. I spend most of my life hours, with this program since I'm 19, every day, multiple hours. And
when
I
did
thought,
you have your first ayahuasca ceremony?
When I had my first one?
Yeah.
When I was 28 or something.
Oh, okay. And then what happened? Sorry.
And then I thought I'm dying, and I thought, my first thought I had was like, I'm not going to see my family again or my partner. I thought, shit, no more Ableton, right? So this tells you how much I love working with the program, how much I love working with sound. And it's like breathing to me. And when I didn't do that for 1 year, when I was living in community, I was almost like, dying because I didn't breathe. I was not nurturing my soul. Yeah. So that's also something that you cannot even experience if you haven't done it. Like the degree of nurturing you get and the degree of excitement and the degree of fulfillment, like to be able to act on your passion, whatever it might be. I think, that's a great indicator if you're able to act on your passion, which is tied into being of service right now, because it will be most likely related to create from the heart, and it will most likely something beautiful, whether it be poetry or dance or painting or sculpting or what have you, like anything that is coming from the heart, that is an expression, is serving, because it's uplifting the frequency. And this is why we all came here, at least the people who resonate with this idea, that they came here to co-create the shift and to uplift the vibration and frequency with their unique gifts.
Right.
And one of mine being, working with sound and frequencies and stuff like that.
I see. And perhaps this ties in I asked Steffen a question I usually ask everyone when they're going to come on the podcast, and that's like, what's your message to the world? What would you want to inspire in people? What would you want people to walk away with? What would you want people to learn? And he said to me that changing the world is an inside job. Oh, it's such a beautiful thing. So I just want to leave it right there. But for the sake of allowing listeners to integrate that a bit more, how is changing the world an inside job?
So that ties into the idea that the world as we perceive it, or what we call reality, is not something solid, contrary to the belief that we have been taught. It's not something solid that exists independently outside of ourselves, and we are in it, having no influence upon it. Rather, it's a holographic reflection of what we think and feel and believe about ourselves and the world. And this has been a very intelligent design by the creator in order to know itself, and in order to maintain a world or create a world where everything is possible, right? We are in the free will zone, we are in the free will universe, and we can create anything. And the thing is, we are also loved unconditionally. We are loved so much that we can create hell on earth and nobody would interfere. And this is true unconditional love. Imagine there would be a God or like a divine mother saying, you went too far, that's not good, No, we can do whatever the fuck we want. And that is really unconditional love.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if people believe like, okay, so there's something outside and that doesn't feel good, or that is not what I prefer, and then people tend to try to fix it outside by fixing people or creating new models or, new strategies or whatever. That is kind of missing the point of the mirror idea or the reflection idea. So basically what I believe and what I've come to realize over and over again in all my ceremonial journeys with psychedelics and plant teachers and working with shamans and stuff, it always came down to the same notion that what I perceive, and now I'm talking about myself, outside of myself, everything, like everything that I can see, touch, feel, smell, is a holographic mirror reflection of what I believe to be true. And so that means if I don't like what I see, then I have to change how I look in the mirror, right? So if I'm frowning, or like imagine like you look in the mirror and the mirror is frowning, you don't not go to the mirror and try to make the mirror smile by, getting over there and forcing it to smile. You smile into the mirror and then the mirror smiles back, right? That's a very simple example. And the crucial point right now where I feel, there's a lot of potential to create both heaven or hell right now, because, as the frequencies get higher, the process of manifestation gets quicker, because, the matter is manifesting quicker in a sense. Imagine, like you're dreaming, right? And if you're in a dream state, you're in a quantum state. And you're not bound by the physical laws so much. So whatever you are afraid of happens instantly. whatever you wish for happens instantly. And I think it's the same in this reality, just with a little delay, because there's more density here. So it takes, quote unquote, longer, even though time also doesn't exist. That's also like another subject we can go into. But it takes longer for it to manifest, but it's the same principle. So whatever you are afraid of, you're going to create because you give energy to it, and the energy is your emotions. So what we see right now in the world, I believe, is a co-creation where there's a collective focus on fearful scenarios, which are then being reproduced on the mirror hologram. And at the same time, you know, people like you and me who have like a different focus, we experience quite a different reality. Like, you know, I see loving people, I see beauty, I see nature, I see abundance. And I think, you know, that if people would be aware that they are creating their reality with their focus and their emotions, and if they would take the responsibility to observe their thoughts, you know, because it starts with that.
Yeah.
Observing, okay, what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on the things that I prefer? Do I emphasize what I want? Or do I focus on what I don't prefer? And do I give a lot of energy to that? And in this case, emotions like fear. Fear is a super strong fuel for manifestation, right?
Yeah. It's such a fascinating idea to me, how it seems like it's so simple and very complex both at the same time. You know? And maybe it's too simple for our human minds to like comprehend it, because our minds are cynical and want to overcomplicate things. But I think I spoke about some of this with Alicia on episode 15, if I'm not mistaken, about manifesting your dream life. And you're saying that changing your reality starts with changing your internal self, your internal environment, your thinking, your state of mind, your state of being. I feel like people would probably hear that and be like, all right, so you're saying that if right now I'm stressed out, find myself kind of miserable at times, life seems dull or mundane, like all you're saying is that I should just look at it differently, and everything else would be, and life would change. That's what you're saying. It's that simple.
It is that simple from a metaphysical perspective, but at the same time, I'm not saying like looking at things differently. Basically, the way that the universe works, from what I understand, is responding to vibration, right? So you can tell yourself affirmations all day, I love myself, but if you don't believe it, it's not going to happen, and it's not going to be reflected back to you. So it all comes down to the vibration that you have inside of yourself, you know? And a quick way to shift the vibration from wherever you are right now is gratitude. You know, gratitude is such a high vibration. And if you can find something right now that you can be grateful for, you know, and visualize that and feel that and really feel the gratitude, whatever that might be, you know, maybe you notice already like a shift. Maybe you notice your body gets more relaxed. Maybe you notice something in your heart, you know. And this is an example of how it works. But basically, you know, it's a deep investigation. It's a deep journey. It's a lifelong journey. But it starts with the intention, and it starts with owning, you know, the fact that you are creating it. And this is also very empowering because, you know, the victim says, I have no control, and there's all those things happening to me, and there's nothing I can do about it. You know, but from the perspective that you creating all the circumstances, including all the people that are triggering you, including all the stuff that you don't prefer to see, you know, and if you say, okay, so if it's true that I'm creating it, what would I have to believe to be true about myself and the world? You know, and then you can get like tangible things like, you know, like life is bad, or like dangerous, or humans are bad, or like humans are corrupt, or I don't deserve to be rich, or I don't deserve to get love, like whatever it might be, you know. And once you start to identifying that, and then you really realize like, why would I believe that? Like that doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, society is structured that way. Like we've been conditioned to believe that we are small and incapable and not important and not powerful. So our focus is always on the lack. Our focus is on our deficiencies and that stuff, and that's what we cultivate. And that's what we see, right? But if we start to shift the perspective and, step by step, and as I said, gratitude can be a good example. And then, whatever you want to see in your life, try to give it first. If you can't take it anymore, start giving, start giving a smile to someone. It can be as simple as that. But then it gets into a spiritual practice, observing, your thoughts and finding out your limiting beliefs and then transforming them. And it's not happening overnight, but once you start doing it, you will actually see that it works. And then it is just a matter of, investigating those beliefs and bit by bit shifting them and unraveling them. And again, acting on your excitement can be really helpful, because then you actually have a lot more joy and fuel, to be on this journey.
Yeah. And I would say that I agree with that, mostly from my own experience, because I have actually tried the opposite, especially when this whole thing started with COVID in 2020. I remember very clearly in March, and I was like, should I cancel my birthday party? I don't know. Let me see. Okay, well, it looks like I can still do it, right? And people criticized me for having a big get-together, and then eventually there was a lockdown. Like it was going to be like a 14-day flatten the curve thing, and then it kept going. And then before I knew it, all my clients had to shut down their business and send their employees home. And I got to see like the real impact that it had on the livelihood of those people. And I was like, this is not right. And I was very much like trying to fix reality, trying to change it, trying to argue with people and convince. And I don't think that made much of a difference for anybody. And definitely not for me.
How did it make you feel?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely not for me either, because it was quite an uphill battle. It's like trying to push a 5,000-ton boulder uphill, and it was not moving. So eventually, thankfully, I had guidance in my life and beautiful people around me that inspired me to look at ideas a little bit differently. And sure enough, I started seeing like how I'd become a victim of circumstances and how I wasn't taking any responsibility for my reality. And then I realized, okay, well, if there is darkness or chaos out there in my reality, what might be most productive is to look within myself to see where I'm harboring darkness and chaos within me, and bring love and acceptance, compassion, forgiveness, understanding to those places within myself, and shit, why not do more and more of what I love to create a loving vibration, and let's talk about these ideas. And that's part of where this podcast was born as well. And this whole thing led me to pursue this deeper inner healing journey that I was inspired to pursue in Costa Rica, and now here I am with you. It's my next door neighbor, right? Having the most amazing time in ecstatic dances. And just about a month ago, you were here DJing an ecstatic dance along with your beautiful partner, Maiwa. And here's one thing I want to share with you all listening that you don't know about Steffen is, mind you, I've been to quite a few ecstatic dances now, right? I've lost count. And never have I ever heard anyone curate a whole ecstatic dance. I'm saying static like your name's Steffen. Never have I seen somebody do a whole ecstatic dance out of original music only. That's what this man did for 2 hours. Or 2.5 hours, including the closing ceremony, which was more live music. 2 hours of original music, and it was awesome. I got feedback from people that attended, like, wow, please bring them back. It was one of the best ones ever. So yeah, just big shout out to you for doing what you love, creating so much magic. And I love seeing you behind the DJ booth, just kind of like rocking out in your vibe, doing your thing. You know, you march to the beat of your own drum, and I appreciate that. You know, so yeah. I hope people have taken something away from here that might make a difference for them in whatever area matters. If there's one thing that I want to highlight from what I'm taking away is just the importance of looking within, right? It's so easy to look outside and say, oh, that's why things are not working out, or, oh, that person is so bad because they're doing that, right? What if all those are just beautiful reminders of our guides or God, the universe, to point something out within ourselves, you know, and perhaps dealing with those things that the outer reality resembles is how we transform our reality and lift consciousness of the world. Right?
Beautiful.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're gonna wrap up, and I'm happy to invite you back. I want to have Maiwa on, and I'd love to do an episode with both of you together soon, so you'll have such a beautiful relationship, and you're all doing the work, right? In the relationship too. It's beautiful. So let's share some of your music here towards the end. I'll link it on. I'll clip it on and allow people to go on that journey of Madre. So before we do that, if people want to hear more of your music, if they want to follow a bit more of your journey, how would you invite them to connect with you? Or if they want to learn from you, what do you have available to offer them? Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So there's different outlets that we have, you know, like the music can be found on Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud, and we can put the links, can send them to you. And then I have also the opportunity, Maiwa and me, we're offering private retreats, or like, let's say, small group retreats up to like a couple or one person, where it's all about harmonic resonance, basically, and we dive deep into things that we talked about today, right? Like metaphysical principles, spiritual practices. Basically, it's all about getting back into alignment, getting into harmonic resonance, reconnecting with the earth, and finding your own gift and being able to share it with the world. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to us. And on my Instagram, I also share like energy updates and reports. And I also am inspired now, like with the sharings that we had also yesterday about, by the way, Caesar is an amazing space holder with the Community Speak series. I don't know if he talked about that in the podcast, but basically he's bringing people together with beautiful exercises and inquiries around community. And we talk about beautiful things like compassion and empowerment and what a community needs and what our needs and how can we provide those needs. And we talked about gifts also, and I felt that I can give more even, you know. And so I have also a YouTube channel called Harmonic Resonance, where I want to share more videos. Now that my camera arrived, it just arrived today, so I'm happy to walk around Costa Rica and talk more about those concepts in a lot more depth, because I know it was like a lot that we talked about. It's a lot to chew on, as you said. Like for me, it's like second nature. I talk about nothing else, and I'm very deep into it. But yeah, if people want to have like a more in-depth, experience of that, I'm going to provide that on the YouTube channel, Harmonic Resonance, as well as sonic activations, which is guided meditations with healing frequencies that trigger the internal knowing and the DNA memories. You know, it's all about connecting with your own internal knowing and intuition and rediscovering your gifts from within you. And we support that with sound and frequency as well.
Amazing. So your Instagram handle is?
Steffen Key Sonic Sorcery.
All together?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll link that up too. thank you so much for tuning in with us. Anything you'd like to say before we close, Steph?
Yes, I want to express my gratitude, and to all the listeners out there, I want to say that whatever you think you're facing right now, you have everything within you that you need in order to transform it, and mainly perspective is super powerful. You might not be able to change the circumstances outside of yourself, but you can change your perspective. And what if everything that is happening right now, all the chaos, all the confusion, all the adversities, are coming from a space of love to leap us into the next step of evolution, to become sovereign beings again. And if we don't get our asses up, then we have to be caged to rattle the cage. And I think that's what's happening. Bless all those beings who accelerate this with their agendas, so that we more clearly know what we don't prefer and more clearly focus on what we do prefer. It's all one being playing hide and seek with itself, with the intention to create more love.
There you have it. Beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. Wish you so much love and joy in your life. Go on and create your preferred reality, a life of joy, a life of fulfillment. And if there's any way we can support you, we're here. We're always pulling for you. Thank you for tuning in to the Love is Our Nature podcast. We'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye. is all, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for being a valued listener. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the podcast in whatever your favorite platform is. You can also watch the video version of the episode on the Love is Our Nature YouTube channel. Check out loveisOurNature.com as well. That's where you can see our latest news and most recent content. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a review, share it with your friends, or email me. I love hearing what you took away for yourself out of listening. My email is caesar@loveisOurNature.com. That's CESAR, or Cesar, like my mother says it, at loveisOurNature.com altogether. Till next time, I'll be here rooting for you. And remember, whatever the question, love is the answer.